Welcome to the Social Media Church podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by my friend Jay Cranda, and we're going to be talking about social media as well as a special announcement that I shared with you in the last episode. We are so excited, and I'm so excited to be your host and for all that's ahead. Jay, I appreciate you joining us here.
Yeah, thanks for welcoming me, and I'm just excited to be part of this and for you to interview me.
Very good. Very good. Well, this is a conversation for church leaders about social media. So Jay, could you share a little bit about your role there at Saddleback and then your involvement and how you've used social media for ministry over the past few years?
Yeah, and I just want to apologize in advance. I'm fighting a little bit of a cold, so if I kind of cough a little bit or sound a little weird, I'm already a little weird, but it's because I'm cold. I blame my kids. Yeah, so anyways, besides that, pushing that off of my kids, I've been part of social media for a while, just doing it. I kind of got thrown into the deep end about 5 or 6 years ago. I was kind of in charge to start a social media ministry at Saddleback Church in Lake Forest. And I know I shared this with DJ a while back, but the idea is that I came in, and Saddleback at the time didn't have a large presence outside of our pastor, Rick Warren's presence. And we wanted to start something within our campuses. And so I was in charge to do that, kind of started a volunteer movement in that, and just started doing what we kind of started. And it started with building some teams and a posting strategy and engaging strategy, a lot of social media policies. How do we allow, at Saddleback, we have, 350 ministries. How many pages do we want them to have? And kind of, it can get crazy real quick. And so I was kind of in charge with that and oversaw that. And a couple of years ago, Haley Venturas, I think I said her last name there wrong, but she took over that, and Haley is just an amazing. And in the in-between there, in the last 6 years, I started doing online church. And obviously with online church, people watching all over, we have a social media presence as well. And so, and then in the in-between, as I got kind of into that, I just started to do some consulting with local organizations, helping them accomplish their visions and their goals on social media. And that's how I started to write that book, Social Media Made Easy for Small Businesses. And I'm working on one for nonprofits as well. So anyways, that's a little bit real quick about social media in general, but yeah, I've been doing it for a little bit, and it's been exciting.
That's awesome, Jay. And I have been a big fan of yours for many years and really learned so much. And that's one of the things I've appreciated about DJ leading this conversation is we've been able to learn from each other. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've really enjoyed is how these online relationships have turned into face-to-face relationships. How do you see, and so you and I, met online, connected online, learned from each other online. And then maybe a year of knowing each other online became face-to-face friends. We get together every time.
Yeah,
I'm in Southern California, or you've come down to Texas before, and we really, I consider you a good friend. I consider DJ a good friend, and we're face-to-face friends. How do you see the church balancing that tension of the digital relationships and then the online or the face-to-face relationships? What's healthy in this space, and what have you learned?
Yeah, I think our friendship reveals a lot to how it should be done. The idea that if we're really, specifically churches, if we're on board to do anything to help people come to know Christ, we have to be, distill something from Craig Rochelle, do anything short of sin, to start that connection, to start that conversation, to start that relationship. And for me, in the role of, my primary role at Saddleback is the online campus pastor, and then I oversee our extension groups. But as an online pastor, a lot of people think that I just want to do ministry online only, and that's just a lie. Really, as an online pastor, is that I have an online venue to start a conversation and get people connected into community. And so to kind of mimic how we do things and how social media works is that I want to start something online and I want to get them on offline. And so really our vision with our online campus is I want people to come to know Christ online, and then I want them to go offline by hosting a group in their area. And so the idea of how we connected online, started tweeting each other, started harassing you about being a Spurs fan. You started to tease me about how bad the Lakers are. But I think when we started friends, the Lakers were really good. Now they're bad, but that's beside the point. And the idea is that then we started to meet up face to face. And that's really my goal as a pastor online, is that I want to start something through email, through Skype, through Zoom, whatever. And then I ultimately want to help them start something in their area, because that's how I experience church locally. Me and my family go to a church. But I'm okay with starting something for outreach reasons online. And I think that's what social media does. The online, medium does, is that we can start something online, facilitate, grow it, encourage people, have a process, and then we can plant something locally. And then with us here at Saddleback, we have a whole strategy to really even launch a campus. And so, but it can start online. And the only barrier is, and where a lot of people get into, kind of potholes, is that they don't know how to go from online to offline wisely, or they don't think through a strategy. They just start with online and they end with online. But I think a robust, sound strategy is the whole process online to offline. But that's how at Saddleback we leverage that.
Right. And I think it's strategy that really is so unique when it comes to social media. And the reality is there is no one strategy that's going to work for everyone. I think you found a really unique strategy that works for Saddleback. And I've learned a ton from that. I've been able to implement some of those aspects of the strategy at Community Bible Church, yet everything you do is not going to transfer, and everything I do is not going to transfer to what you do. And that's Correct. The beauty of this conversation. One of the things I want to talk about is our face-to-face relationship that has grown and developed. And so this last weekend, I connected with DJ while I was in Southern California. We got together and had lunch, and then we went over to your apartment. And so it was fun to see those digital.
It's a condo. I just want to let you know. I know you've owned a home in like Texas, and maybe the size of homes in California look like apartments, but that was a condo, and I consider it a home. So
okay, well, it's your home, and now I'm living in a 700 square foot home. It's a brownstone apartment that I rent. So I guess, anyways, we could get into that nitpicking later.
Space, like I guess the middle of the country, it's like you can have the most space, and the farther out to the fringes you get, the smaller it gets.
Yeah. One of the advantages of Zooming with you is I just have to push a button and we can be connected. At your condo, I had to park a mile away to then walk up. And so it is part of the stress of having a face-to-face relationship with you. True. So we got together, we're hanging out. You cooked us dinner. We had steaks at your condo, hung out with your kids. We watched basketball. We have a friendship, and we started having a conversation. So DJ shared with you the news that I would be the new host of this podcast. And that conversation turned into a podcast of, why don't you co-host with me, the Social Media Church podcast? So we threw it out there. You were excited about it and jumped at the opportunity. So I was thrilled, as I was kind of lost going into this of, I'm excited about it, but really not sure where I'm going to go and where I'm going to take this and what's next for the podcast. And so to have a good friend like you join me on the podcast as a co-host is so exciting for me. And so I'm so excited to announce that to everyone, that you'll be over the next year that my co-host, and we'll share this platform together and really lead this conversation together that DJ helped start a couple years ago. So Jay, I'm excited to hear from you and hear your thoughts. Maybe share what you thought as we first had that conversation, and then share a little bit about what you're excited about over the next year being on the podcast.
Well, just thanks for letting me do it. I mean, obviously, it was when I heard you were doing it and what DJ was thinking, and being part of this podcast in the past as somebody that DJ interviewed. I just wanted to jump at that opportunity. And a couple of things that I'm excited about is, I think some of the most encouraging and kind of inspiring conversations I've had in the last couple of years around social media and church online and anything online, really, it could be marketing or anything like that. It's been conversations that you've been a part of. And when I'm around you, I think we are at a place that we can just have some, peer-to-peer conversations, and it could spur on just all, I said spur. I don't want to say that around you anyways. And so it starts all these new conversations, and I really walk away encouraged. And so the idea to be able to do that online together in some kind of, regular capacity, I want to jump on that. And then there's just so many things that I know that if we talked about more regularly, I think a lot of people can be encouraged and inspired as well. and I will be inspired through the process. So I'm just grateful to be part of it, and I'm excited about this next year.
Great. So we're going to have fun. We're going to pick on each other, and
Yes.
it's especially good because the Spurs are so much better than the Lakers right now. And so that aspect of our relationship is just going to be a natural part of
I
the
don't know why. I
next
don't know why
year.
this year had to be the year. I don't know why.
Well, it honestly, it could have been any year the last 8 or 9 years, I think. But
No, that's okay. You're overplaying your hand there. But
since
anyways,
Shaq left the Lakers, it just hasn't been it hasn't been right.
the Lakers. Oh man, it's interesting how Pau Gasol goes to the Bulls. And anyways. Besides the point, yeah, I think we're gonna have to do. We need like a button, like get back to the topic. Like
Yeah.
I feel like we need like a ding or something.
Well, we'll have that, and you and I talked about this before the podcast. The first change we're going to make, and not that we plan on making significant changes, is to shorten the podcast. And so, as I've been doing research into podcast, is that the natural time for a podcast now is the time of a commute, which is an average of 20 minutes. And so, we're going to
Yeah.
look to shorten the podcast to 20 minutes, and we're also going to look to shift the conversation to a specific topic. Rather than just an interview. And naturally,
Yeah.
we're going to bring other friends and colleagues into the conversation as we dig into certain topics. But we believe that people want to talk about things like Snapchat, or people want to talk about Instagram, or maybe some of the trends around technology, or more recently, we're seeing things like the Apple Watch come out and talk about how churches can use that from a social perspective. Are there any conversations that you kind of or topics that you get interested in or excited about?
Yeah, I think obviously, one of the big goals was to be more relevant, week to week, when possible, especially around different news. But just to share how, I think one thing the church struggles with is, a lot of times technology and building things, costs a lot of money and time, but to get to the relevance of how to apply that. So the iWatch kind of thing is like, how is that relevant to somebody sitting in a service, or how is that relevant to just social media in general? But to be able to have more of those week to week conversations around, okay, Google just released this, or Microsoft just released this, which you tend to not say that much, but Microsoft just released this. How does that apply to the church, or how does that apply to social media, or anybody really general? And what are some creative ideas? So I'm really excited about those conversations to make it like, here's news. Let's just like spitball around some ways that we can use that in some innovative ways. And then I know people will use it in a variety of ways, and just to watch that in the community general, and then talk about it. Those are things that I'm excited about.
Absolutely. And I think about your book and my book, and both of our books are they're similar in many ways, and they're very practical. And we want to have some practical conversations and ideas on how to use social media. But I think you and I both have a passion to push the church to be the most innovative organization on the planet.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we're going to have to push this conversation beyond the basics to really dig into a core, deep, innovative conversation. So we hope that this will be for the church leaders that are just starting out, but we really want this conversation to not be techie and nerdy, but to be really a conversation that pushes church leaders to be the most innovative organizations on the planet.
Totally agree.
Well, good stuff. Well, Jay, as my co-host, or as our co-host for the Social Media Church podcast, will you send us off on this episode?
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us this week, part of the Social Media Church podcast. And to learn more and stay up to date about everything we're doing and talking about, go to socialmedia.church.